Well, ANC National spokesperson Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri has spoken out on the cholera outbreak and the backlash on social media. This was in a statement sent out by the ANC yesterday, of course, this following the cholera outbreak. And as you can see there at the bottom of our screen now, that the number of cholera cases have now increased and the death toll now stands at 17. Mahlengi now joining us. Mahlengi, good morning and thank you so much for making time for us. The death toll now stands at 17. The ANC's response to this crisis?
Well, according to what we've said in our statement, and I also just want to start off by framing my intervention this morning. Sometime in 2018, the then mayor, Solim Simang, says that 300 million rands has been allocated to treat the Rooiwal wastewater plant. Now, he says this is why the allocation of 300 million rands was made, and this will be funded in multiple phases. And speaking to phase one and in relation to that and talking about the fact that the project is sitting at 58% completion. Now, the simple question this morning, Aldrin, is what happened to this project starting in 2018 and why are people dying of cholera? So we want to talk about accountability, both responsibility in terms of management in the city of Tshwane as well as political accountability. And our statement is essentially in relation to that.
Okay, so let's start off with that new figure that just came in. The death toll is at now 17, and of course the cholera outbreak has now spread to different provinces, including the Free State, and we see even in Kroonstad now that there are cases there. The ANC's response to the health crisis now that we're speaking about?
No, certainly. It is of great concern. In fact, also we just need to extend our sincere condolences to the families that have been affected by the passing on of their loved ones and those that are hospitalized, as we've indicated in our statement. But back to the issue of Tshwane, I think the health crisis is of concern. But back to the city of Tshwane, in terms of our statement, we just simply are calling for accountability. We understand that this is an age-old problem, but we also acknowledge the fact that it is under the DA-led administration that successive grants from national government, including the offer by national government, by the way, to intervene and support the city in a much more proactive manner were rejected by subsequent various administrations under the DA-led government.
Okay. So since those rejections from the DA government, as you speak of, there was a report from the Human Rights Commission in 2021 already that spoke about the concerns that have been raised by residents and says that it dates as far back to 2008 when people started drinking contaminated water. And 2008 would mean that is way before the DA took over in their coalition government. What's your response to that?
Well, I would say that where there have been serious lapses in terms of service delivery and financial management in relation to administering clean and safe water in the city of Tshwane, and particularly in Hammanskraal, whoever has not done what needed to be done ought to be held accountable, regardless of whether it was the ANC administration or the DA-led administration. So from our perspective as the African National Congress, we don't think that there's anything to defend in as far as that is concerned. I am, however, mindful of the fact that there are several interventions and plans that were laid out, particularly under the Mayor Kgosientsho Ramokgopa's time, which when the DA came on stream in governing the city of Tshwane, were not pursued. Having said that, as I say, I think the most important thing are the livelihoods of the people of Hammanskraal that we need to be concerned about, and ensuring that the reports of the South African Human Rights Commission, we need to ask the question as to why those have not been pursued and why those were really looked at with a dim eye by the current administration.
Sure. Again, I'm going to go back to the ANC-led administration, and you speak there about Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, who was the mayor before the ANC was ousted in the city of Tshwane. And back in 2016 already, he speaks about our people in Hammanskraal don't have water. People get water from trucks and Jojo tanks. We want to ensure that everyone has water in their yards. 550 million rand has been set aside for that to deliver water. And of course, as you say, that The Democratic Alliance then took over as a coalition after the 2016 local government elections and didn't follow through on those projects. But again, it points to that the problems were there even before the DA took over. Who needs to take accountability, and has the ANC, as the governing party, called in its own members to say that you need to be held accountable?
I would say that, when the ANC needs to be held accountable for any historical issues, but we have a government now in Tshwane, which has been the same government that has been here for over 5 years. And the people of Tshwane needs to hold the current government accountable. The ANC was held accountable when it was in power. The ANC was criticized when it was in power. Part of the losses of our electoral fortunes there were in part around issues of water. So we took accountability. We went back to becoming an opposition. We've been playing our role effectively as opposition. Here we have a government that must be held accountable in the same way that the ANC is held to account in municipalities where we govern. We don't shake away and say that, no, it was the previous government that didn't do what it needed to have done. And that would simply be my comment on that particular aspect. And I want to also just talk about the fact that the Aldrin national government and the provincial government have been doing an intervention. Even that current intervention that is led by the team of Minister Mkhunu is really being not supported, as you know. It's well reported, not widely supported by the local administration in the city of Tshwane. And the question is, when will cooperative governance start to work in ensuring that there's access to safe and clean water for the people and the residents of Tshwane?
Well, the Deputy Minister, though, has a different view now. He says that actually there was a meeting that took place between themselves, including the Minister, Senzo Mkhunu, as well as the Mayor of the city of Tshwane, Silas Brink. So seemingly there is a working relationship that is being established, but they do indicate, though, that historically at least, that there has been some concerns. Now going forward, what should happen, Mahlengi? Back to the South African Human Rights Commission report, it says there that the alternative to the declaration of a national disaster, the Commission recommends that in terms of Section 139, subsection 7 of the Constitution and Section 63 of the WSA and Section 16 and 63 of the NWA, Cabinet seriously consider taking a decision for national government to intervene in the running of the city of Tshwane's metropolitan municipality. Do you think that this competency that now lies with the local government in the city of Tshwane should be handed over to the national government in its entirety, as per this recommendation from the South African Human Rights Commission? We certainly support that recommendation, which should have been implemented already, and perhaps we would have averted what we are experiencing now. So the invocation of Section 139 of the Constitution is a matter of immediate action. We propose and we support those actions that are currently being taken. We also welcome the fact that the DA-led administration is now coming on stream in terms of cooperating with other partners at the provincial and national level in the spirit of cooperative governance. But certainly they are not going to be able to resolve this problem on their own. It's going to be important that it is a national government-led intervention. We don't obviously support the declaration of a national state of disaster, but the alternative is possible to invoke the relevant pieces of legislation to address the water challenge and the water treatment challenge in Hammanskraal and the Greater Tshwane so that it doesn't spread to other provinces. So yes, certainly that is supported. And we also call for holding to account both the management, those that were responsible for awarding contracts irregularly. We understand that some of those employees are still in the employ and are still on the payroll of the city of Tshwane. Those things were also contained in the report of the Human Rights Commission, as well as the reports of the Auditor General, which really found that the city is in a dire financial management state, and that the necessary remedial actions that were proposed by the AG be implemented with speed and with haste. Is Edwin Sodi still a member of the ANC?
I would not be aware. I would have to check that. I'm not aware.
Okay. Does Edwin Sodi still donate money to the ANC?
I am not aware that, certainly not in the list of the funders in the recent audit exercise that was conducted, which gave the ANC a clean bill of health in terms of our audit outcome. I'm not aware that Mr. Sodi doesn't appear in that list. And so, yeah, where we disclose our funders in accordance with the Party Funding Act.
Yeah, okay. You may have seen the reports around over 200 million rand that was awarded to his company. And of course, we know that he has publicly said, of course, during the State Capture Commission of Inquiry's reports as well, that he is a donor of the ANC. Is the ANC concerned at all that if indeed it is found that the money was awarded to him irregularly that the ANC would have benefited from money that was irregularly awarded to a company that was run by Edwin Sodi?
I think my position and that of the ANC on this matter would be that any monies irregularly awarded through the tender system of government, the public procurement system of government, and are used for wrong purposes, those that do so should be held to account without fear or favor, regardless of their association with this or that political party, including the governing party itself. We've got clear policies in place in relation to how we deal with matters of ethical conduct and integrity, including in terms of who funds us. We've been vocal about that in the context of the renewal program of the ANC. And so if there is such a case that Mr. Sodi has actually used monies received in ways that are irregular, should be held to account without a doubt. And I think this is something that we've been very categorical about within the ANC in terms of our policies that are being revamped to ensure greater financial management and governance and transparency around all of that. And so we're not worried so much about where we stand as a party in terms of our ethical practices, in terms of donors that come to us. So if there is such is found, we would really expect that law enforcement would come in and do what it needs to do to ensure that we can have clean governance in our country, and political parties should play a very strong role in supporting the efforts of all in society to ensure that there's clean governance. And part of it is how we administer donations and who makes donations, and the sources of those funds should be looked at. And I'm comfortable that we do have an environment, a well-regulated environment in the country regarding all of those things.
Let's speak about culpability. You spoke about the Democratic Alliances-led coalition, of course, in the city of Tshwane. 17 people have died now so far. What about culpability, criminal culpability here? Should the Democratic Alliance face a criminal investigation for the lapses in their judgments and decisions that have not been taken that could have avoided this crisis and also these mass deaths now?
Well, I'm aware that, there's a formal investigation that has now been being commissioned, that has started, and that is led by this team, the National Intervention Team. And I would imagine that would form part of the terms of reference. And so we're going to be watching that very closely as the African National Congress. We wouldn't want to upfront come and make a statement of that kind, but we're going to rely on the report that is presented to us by Minister Mkhulu, on the basis of which we then make further pronouncements on this matter. We are following it very closely, but we do want to allow our deployees in government to lead this effort in a way that is transparent and in a way that is also not playing politics, because we're dealing with the lives of people. Already we've lost 17 people. That is concerning enough.
Does the ANC have any plans at all to go and visit the families of the 17 people who died?
The ANC is on the ground. Our regional executive committee in the Greater Tshwane region has been with families. Every single day has been visiting families that are affected, including those that are in hospital. And this is something that, of course, is not often reported about. They are on the ground, they are working with those families, they're providing the necessary support. And indeed, we will continue to visit the families, including the national leadership. But I can say with confidence that our regional executive committee has been doing this work already together with the leadership of the province. So yes, this is something that we're dealing with a humanitarian intervention that we're not often publicizing because we're dealing with the lives of people here.
And then finally on the cholera matter is now, as I've indicated, that it's not only in one province. We've got two provinces. Another province is still waiting for confirmation. So there seems to be a general problem as well when it comes to the quality of water. And this is not the first time that this has been reported on. From the ANC side, what should happen from a national intervention part to ensure that the water that is being distributed is potable?
One of the recent discussions, in fact, that is being treated with a lot of urgency is looking at accelerating water services delivery across the country and addressing some of the related challenges in the provinces, not of the kind that you have in Tshwane, but just on a much more sustainable path. And so I'm hoping that that conversation is going to really deliver a set of urgent, quick fix interventions to address the wider water provision challenge. And of course, from a health services delivery perspective, I'm certain that our officials in the National Department of Health are watching this thing very closely and will urge them to do so. We do have a lot of capability in that environment, and hopefully this can be arrested. And that is what we're going to be pushing for as the African National Congress.
And Mahlengi, there's another issue in relation to the new laws that the President has put forward, and this is around the Employment Equity Act as well as a BEE, specifically when it comes to the representation of black people and marginalized people in the workplace. The DA has a campaign that they've launched, and they're using the face there of Ahmad Kathrada, of course, who was an ANC stalwart. The Ahmad Kathrada Foundation has also now come out hitting back at the Democratic Alliance. But from the ANC side, what does the ANC make of this campaign by the DA? And it's not the first time. I remember even with the Nelson Mandela campaign as well, that they used his face.
Well, we've come out as well, Aldrin, to say that it is quite shameful, and for the DA to invoke the spirits of our ancestors and the stalwarts of liberation who were incarcerated, and strangely, both of them, both Madiba and Uncle Kathy, were incarcerated at Robben Island by the same laws and systems that were put in place by the predecessors of the DA. And today you have to find out, and you have to ask for yourself, why is it that the DA finds it easy to use the icons of liberation that stood for non-racialism, non-sexism, and a democratic, just, and humane society? Why is it that they can't invoke the spirits of their own ancestors who actually peddled and institutionalized the apartheid system in this country? I think it is for society and for the public to judge for themselves. Why utilize the face of Uncle Kathrada, who stood against anything and most of the things that the Democratic Alliance, the modern day Democratic Alliance, stands for? In fact, he would be turning in his grave for his name to be associated with an effort to undermine the Employment Equity Amendment law, which is not seeking to exclude Indians and colored members of our community from the labor market. In fact, as we understand it, as the ANC, when we've studied the amendments, are not seeking to do just that. They are seeking to further transform the labor market, because the transformation of the labor market in South Africa cannot be left behind as we continue to transform society. But back to the use of the symbols and the faces and the words of our stalwarts and our icons, we think that it's a bad race-baiting campaign that is seeking to take us back to the days when race was the only thing that was used, or the thing that was used to exclude people from participation in the political system, in representation, in the economy, and in the labor market. It is something that has got to be condemned, because this country has really moved a mile in terms of fighting the demon of racism.